REN TV coverage of the 2013 IRMI Energy Risk and Insurance Conference is sponsored by WebCE. Jared Blong is Director of Risk Management at Western Drilling. We spoke with him during the IRMI Energy Conference in Houston about emerging risk, regulation, and his thoughts on insurance coverage for the energy sector.
One of the things that we're seeing is a big crew change across the industry, not just in the service side, but in the E&P sector as well. There's a big gap in talent and competency, and this is a major challenge that we're going to have to figure out how to deal with on a risk side as far as human capital is concerned, but also how do we continue to bring new people, new, bright, energetic, unconventionally thinking people into the industry, and yet continue to tie into the lessons that we've been learning for so many years from these great seasoned veterans that are exiting right now. Challenges in the political climate, do vary state to state for obvious reasons because of civil reform or lack thereof that exists. But also, certainly from the federal level, we're seeing challenges or potential challenges coming out. There's always a blind, yellow-bellied, critter out there that somebody's going to come up with that could always put a moratorium on drilling, and that's has a traumatic effect on the energy business across the board. Not just E&P companies or drilling companies, but your secondary and tertiary outfits that are gaining profit from that. Cement companies, fracking companies, but also restaurants and hotels and housing and all these other things. So it's a pretty big issue, and it really rests mostly on our shoulders of how we're going to respond to those things. Lack of tort reform in certain places where oil and gas is becoming more and more prevalent as an economic driver really is going to be a major challenge. Unfortunately, in Texas, we had a group of folks 20 or so years ago that really had great foresight and started fighting the good fight on behalf of business. And we saw massive tort reform take place throughout the state. But we need other states where oil and gas is an economic driver to learn from those lessons and figure out how do we mirror and mimic what's taking place in the state of Texas, just particularly in the U.S. I can think of a particular example in New Mexico where traveling employee doctrine is a really hot topic, at least for me. Right now it is, but it seems like it's a growing hot topic of, when are we responsible for people? When they get in the car, when they get on location, how do you determine that, and how do you legally put parameters on what that zone of danger is, and then how do we economically account for that via insurance or policies internally as we operate, and trying to take care of our people and be responsible with them as an asset, and just human beings in general. Right now in the energy sector, I think the most difficult risk to mitigate is what's coming down the pipeline through Washington and through the state capitals. It's such a wild card. We think we've got a good handle on it. But we as an industry, risk managers, general managers, CEOs, insurance professionals, everybody has got to be on the same collaborative page in an effort to continue to promote what we do, and what we do is great because it's necessary for our economy. And we all, in this conference, we all believe in what we do, that it's an economic engine for the United States. And it's an economic engine for the world, and so they're all watching how we do it and how we respond to regulatory environments. So that's the wild card, that's the joker that it can always come out to nip at our heels. And it's not that we want to keep it at bay, but we want to figure out how to collaborate properly with regulators and enforcers to make sure that this is a win for everyone.
For more world risk and insurance news from the IRMI Energy Risk and Insurance Conference, visit the REN TV On Demand Library.